Let's talk about what happened to 22-year-old Leslie Palacio and how her killer is still on the run. Leslie was born on May 5th, 1998 in Las Vegas, and she was the second oldest of 5 sisters. They were all raised by their mother Araceli and their father, and they all described Leslie as a loving, kind, hardworking, and strong person. In 2020, she was studying phlebotomy, and she was also working as a lab assistant who would take people's blood. Leslie loved fitness, she loved health, and she loved spending time with her family. On August 28th, 2020, Leslie was at home trying to make plans to go out. She wanted to go out with her friends, so she texted a couple of people, but no one was able to go out. In that moment, Leslie received an Instagram message from a man named Eric Rangel. Now, Eric wasn't a stranger. He was actually the son of Leslie's godmother. He was a childhood friend, but they weren't really that close as adults because Eric actually had feelings for Leslie. He had asked her out on dates numerous times, but Leslie always said no because she just didn't feel that way about him. However, on this particular night, Leslie decided to say yes, and she agreed to go out with Eric, but just as friends. She told her sister Kareli that she was going to go out and that she would keep her posted throughout the night. She got ready, and at around 11 p.m., Eric pulled up in his white pickup truck and he picked up Leslie, and the two of them headed out for the night. Their first stop of the night was at the Longhorn Hotel and Casino, and the two of them headed over to the restaurant area. You can see the two of them on camera eating, hanging out, and it seems like everything is fine. They were there for a couple of hours and they left the bar at around 2 a.m. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Leslie was keeping her sister Kareli posted about what was going on. Around 4:40 in the morning, Leslie texted Kareli and said, "Dude, I gotta talk to you about some shit." Kareli immediately replied and she asked her sister, what's going on? She saw that Leslie was typing something, but then all of a sudden the typing bubble stopped. Kareli called and texted Leslie after this, but she never received a response. Later that morning, when Kareli woke up and got ready for the day, she realized that her sister was still not home. She called her once again, but received no response. Now she was starting to worry, so she went over to their mother Araceli and told her that she wasn't able to get in contact with Leslie. Called Eric to see if maybe he knew where Leslie was, but he also wasn't picking up the phone. So the family decided to go over to the Rangel house to see if maybe Leslie and Eric were there. However, when they pulled up to the house, they noticed that the Rangel family was acting very weird. Eric's sisters and his mother were in the driveway moving furniture. The Palacio family approached them and asked them, where's Leslie and Eric? Like, what's going on? And they just ignored the Palacio family, which again is so odd because these are literally family friends and Eric's mother is literally Leslie's godmother. They tried calling Eric again, but now his phone was disconnected. The family tried to file a missing persons report, but the police told them that they needed to wait 72 hours. So on August 30th, the family was finally able to file a report. What was odd is that the next day, Eric's family also filed a missing persons report for Eric and for his father, Jose. So the day after Leslie was reported missing, Eric's family also reported him missing along with his father, Jose, which was odd because why is the dad also missing? You would think that the Rangel family would be joining the Palacio family to look for Eric, Leslie, and Jose, but no. They continue to be distant and cold toward the Palacio family. They also didn't want to talk to any reporters, and it seems like they didn't want to get the word out about Eric and Jose's disappearance. While the Palacio family was literally talking to the news, they were going on social media. They were doing whatever they could to bring awareness to Leslie's disappearance. After this, the Rangel family just kind of disappeared. Neighbors didn't see them go out anymore, so we're not sure if they moved or they just hid inside the house. Their behavior was just very odd, so police decided to ask the neighbors if they had any security footage that was pointing towards the Rangel house, and one of the neighbors did. The footage shows Eric and Leslie arriving to the Rangel home on August 29th at around 6:05 a.m. Eric takes Leslie out of the passenger seat and she just looks incapacitated. She could barely walk on her own. She literally had to lean on Eric in order to get inside the house. So they go inside the house at around 6:05 in the morning, and then an hour later at 7 a.m., Eric comes out of the house by himself. He tosses something small into his truck, gets inside, and then just drives away. He was alone at this moment, so where was Leslie? 15 minutes later, Eric goes back to the house, walks inside, and then walks out with his father, Jose. In this time, the two of them are carrying and kind of dragging a body wrapped in a blanket. Police assume that this was the body of 22-year-old Leslie Palacio. They put the body into the passenger seat of the truck. Eric gets inside and then drives away. Jose stays back and he starts hosing off the driveway. After looking at this footage, police get a search warrant and they go inside the Rangel home. Inside the house, they found cleaning supplies and they also found drops of blood. There was just cleaning supplies everywhere, and it looked like someone had thoroughly cleaned the house. Even though there were drops of blood found in the house, to this day, police have not been able to confirm if that blood belonged to Leslie. At this point, police now know for sure that Eric and his father Jose are on the run. After further investigation, they discovered that one of their family members actually drove them across the San Isidro border in San Diego. So now the two of them were somewhere in Mexico. While police were on the hunt for Eric and Jose, they were also trying to find Leslie's body. And on September 9th, 2020, they finally found her. Her body was found not not far from the road in the Valley of Fire. Since the desert was so hot, her body was heavily decomposed, so for this reason, they are not able to determine a cause of death. The hunt for Jose and Eric continued, and on January 19th, 2021, Jose was found. And he actually turned himself in at the San Isidro border in San Diego. Apparently, he turned himself in because he didn't want to be on the run anymore, but he says that he had no idea where Eric was. So Jose turns himself in at the border, and when police ask him, "Where's your son Eric?" he says, "I have no idea." He said that as soon as they got into Mexico, they split up. That way it would be harder for them to be found. They take him to the interrogation room and they ask him, "What happened? Like, what did you do to Leslie?" He says that on August 29th, he was working in the garage when all of a sudden he saw Eric come running down the stairs shirtless. Eric was freaking out and he was dragging Leslie's body on a bed sheet. Jose decided to immediately jump in and help out his son by putting Leslie's body in the back of his truck. He says he did this because he didn't want any of the other family members to know what was happening. Eric told him that Leslie had died of an overdose and that he needed to get rid of her body. Jose says that he didn't see any visible injuries on Leslie and that she was partially clothed. Now, if Leslie really did die of an overdose, why wouldn't they call the police? If it was truly an accident, they should have called the police and notified Leslie's family. But what a lot of people think happened is that Leslie overdosed on something that Eric gave her without her consent. After getting rid of Leslie's body, the two of them decided to run and escape to Mexico. Now, Jose claims that none of the other family members know about what happened, but a lot of people find that hard to believe because the next day when the Palacio family went to go look for Leslie at the Rangel home, they were in the driveway moving furniture and acting very suspicious. So it's hard to believe that the family truly didn't know what had happened. Obviously, Jose was arrested and his hearing before a grand jury was in February of 2021. During this hearing, one of Eric's friends testified and said that on the morning of August 29th, he received a phone call from Eric. Eric called him from a burner phone and said that he was in Utah and asked his friend if he could go to the gas station to pick him up a can of gas. He told his friend that he didn't want to be seen on any surveillance footage, and when the friend asked him why, Eric told him, "I killed a bitch." He said this so calmly that the friend actually didn't believe him. He asked Eric again, why do you need the can of gas? And Eric repeated, "I killed a bitch. She's dead in the back seat of my truck right now." The way he's talking about Leslie just makes me so freaking mad. Like, you took her life and you're still calling her a bitch? The friend decided not to help Eric, so he hung up the phone, but he didn't call police immediately to let them know, "Hey, my friend just admitted to murdering someone." Going back to Jose, on June 18th, 2021, Jose actually pled guilty to all the charges. However, he was only sentenced to 2 years. 2 years for helping covering up a murder, hiding a body, escaping to Mexico. I mean, I don't understand how he only got 2 years. The Palacio family was so angry about this, and what's even worse is that Jose didn't even fully serve the 2 years. He was actually released early, and now he's just free and out and about. As of today, in 2023, Eric Rangel is still on the run. It's believed that he is somewhere in Mexico and the family just wants him to be found and be held accountable for what he did. Leslie was a beautiful young girl that had such a bright future ahead of her. My thoughts and prayers go out to the family, and I truly hope that Eric is found and that Leslie receives justice. This is a case of 20-year-old Ana Fernanda Ruiz and how she was found dead inside a base of Fort Hood, Texas. Ana was born on October 18, 2002 in Michoacan, Mexico. She lived there with her mother Alejandra and with her sister Natalie, and her father actually lived in Long Beach, California. In 2020, Ana decided that she wanted to move to the United States, so she decided to enroll in the Army. She had a dream of having a successful career in the military, and she wanted to serve her country proudly. Because of the pandemic, her enrollment was delayed, so she wasn't able to actually enroll until 2021. Once the enrollment went through, they sent her to live at a base in Fort Hood, Texas. Now, if you're wondering why Fort Hood sounds so familiar, it's because that's the same base that 20-year-old Vanessa Guillen lived at when she was murdered. If you recall from Vanessa's case, she had told her friends and family that she was being sexually harassed by someone at the base. Well, it turns out that Ana did the same thing. She told her friends and family that she was being sexually harassed by one of her sergeants. At first, Ana was scared to come forward because she didn't want to get in trouble or get kicked out. Then she realized that the harassment needed to stop, so she told her superiors, but nothing was done about it. They told her that they would move the sergeant to another area, but they never did that. Instead, they actually transferred Ana to a different platoon and just kind of hoped that the complaints would stop. But they didn't. Ana told her friends and family that she was still being harassed and she didn't know what else to do. At one point, someone at the base had tried to choke Ana. She told this person to stop, and this guy kind of just laughed at her and made it seem like it was a joke. On March 8th, 2023, Ana called her mother Alejandra and told her that tough things were happening to her. She said things were not going well at the base and that she wanted to move back to Mexico and be with her family. On Saturday, March 11th, Ana texted her father Baldo and told him that things were not not going well and that she wanted to die. Baldo immediately texted his daughter back but received no response. None of his messages were going through, so he decided to check Ana's location, and it showed that it last pinged at a park inside the base. The next day, on Sunday, March 12th, he tried to contact his daughter but once again received no response. Then, on Monday, March 13th, 2023, military representatives arrived to Baldo's job and told him, "Your daughter is dead." After this, they called Alejandra, who was back in Mexico, and they told her over the phone, "I'm sorry, but your daughter is dead." They told her that they found Ana with a noose around her neck and that they believed that Ana took her own life. As soon as Alejandra heard this, she knew that they were wrong. There was no way that Ana would ever do this to herself or to her family. Ana's friends also came forward and said that yes, she was feeling down, but that she wouldn't do this. She actually had plans to go visit Long Beach, California on March 31st to be with her friends and family. She also told her friends that as soon as her contract ended in August with the military, she was not going to renew it and she was going to officially move to Long Beach, California. There, she was going to have a fresh start, and she was so excited about this. So because of this, the family feels like it's very odd that Ana would take her own life when she was so excited about the future. The family asked the military, is there any evidence to prove that Ana did this to herself? And they said no. There were no witnesses, no cameras, nothing to show that Ana did this. So the base says that there are no cameras, no witnesses, nothing to show that Ana did take her own life. Her father Baldo thought this was weird because so many people live at this base, so he doesn't understand how no one saw or heard what happened to Ana. Fort Hood did come out with a statement and they said that they are investigating Ana's death, but at this time they do not believe that foul play was involved. What happened to Ana reminds a lot of people of what happened to Vanessa Guillen. Vanessa was a 20-year-old soldier living at Fort Hood who was murdered in April of 2020. She had told her friends and family that she was being sexually harassed by someone at the base, and then she was murdered. Her killer, Aaron Robinson, actually unalived himself as police were zeroing in on him. So we have Vanessa Guillen, a 20-year-old Latina female soldier living at Fort Hood, complaining about sexual harassment. She told her family, friends, and superiors about this and then was murdered. Then we have 20-year-old Ana Fernanda Ruiz, who was also a young female Latina soldier living at Fort Hood, complaining about being sexually harassed. She tells her superiors about this and then she ends up dead. They're claiming that Ana took her own life, but her family and friends believe otherwise. Just too many similarities between what happened to Ana and what happened to Vanessa, and Ana's mother, Alejandra, honestly believes that her daughter's death is a cover-up. I feel like Fort Hood isn't telling the whole story and they just want answers and justice. They want the truth. The family has created a GoFundMe and a portion of the funds are going to be used to conduct a second autopsy on Ana's body. There hasn't been any public details about the autopsy or if it's been conducted yet or what's going on with that. The family did ask the coroner if they can conduct their own autopsy so they can get their own results, and he said yes, as long as you pay for it. So there is a GoFundMe open for that. Hopefully you guys can make a donation and help the family out. At the end of the day, all the family wants is a truth. They want to know what happened to Ana and why no one was punished for sexually harassing her. They don't want this to be swept under the rug, so hopefully you guys can continue to help spread awareness and keep her case going. The family has been holding marches and vigils back in Mexico demanding for justice. As they're marching, they're shouting, "No estamos todas, nos falta Ana Fernanda. No estamos todas, nos falta Vanessa Guillen," which means we are not all here, we are missing Ana Fernanda. We are not all here, we are missing Vanessa Guillen. My thoughts and prayers go out to Ana's family. I am so sorry that this happened to her, and I truly hope that you all receive the answers that you're looking for. This is the case of Princess Doe and how someone confessed to her murder in 2005, but it wasn't until 40 years later that police were finally able to close the case. On Thursday, July 15, 1982, a gravedigger working at the Cedar Ridge Cemetery in Blairstown, New Jersey, noticed a chain and a crucifix lying in the dirt. As he walked closer to the wooded area, he discovered the body of a young girl. He immediately called the police, and Lieutenant Kranz arrived to the scene and began to investigate. Kranz figured that the case would be solved quickly, that he would find some type of identification on the young girl and then notify her family about her death. However, when he turned over the girl's body, he realized that she had been badly beaten and that her face was unrecognizable. So Kranz started looking at her clothing to see if he could find any type of clues, and this is what she was wearing, and she also had light brown shoulder-length hair, and she wasn't wearing any underwear, stockings, shoes, or socks. She also didn't have any type of identification on her. The medical examiner determined that her cause of death was blunt trauma to the face and head with multiple fractures, and the ME also said that there were defensive wounds on the girl's arms and hands. She was a fighter, and she tried to stop her attacker. Unfortunately, since her skull was smashed into pieces and she was so badly beaten, the medical examiner could not determine her eye color. What they did know about her was that she was a white female between the ages of 14 to 18 years old. She was 5'2", about 110 pounds, had both ears pierced, and she had also never been pregnant or given birth. Lieutenant Cran said she was erased. Her assailant erased her. There was nothing left for her. Whoever did this did it with vengeance. Lieutenant Kranz was really moved by this young girl's death, and he said that at one point she was somebody's princess. Somebody once cared for her. So instead of calling her just another Jane Doe, he decided to call her Princess Doe. He said that he didn't want to bury her yet because he was hoping that her parents would come forward and claim her, but they never did. So 6 months later, members of the community and the police force gathered together to raise money and hold a funeral for Princess Doe. Her headstone read, "Princess Doe, missing from home, dead among strangers, remembered by all. Born, ? Found July 15th, 1982. At one point, Lieutenant Kranz put Princess Doe's clothing on a mannequin, and he invited members of the press and members of the community to come look at the clothing, take photos of it, and help spread the word. His hope is that someone would look at the clothes and recognize them and realize that this was their missing daughter, their missing sister, their missing friend. A few people did come forward and said that they owned this exact skirt and that they had bought it at a dress store in Long Island. This wasn't the only time that Long Island had come up in the investigation. On May 5th, 2005, a written letter was delivered to the New Jersey police, and it was sent from a man named Arthur Kinlaw, who lived in Long Island. So back in the 80s, Arthur Kinlaw moved between different areas of Long Island and ran a blank ring with his wife Donna. In June of 1998, Arthur and Donna were arrested for fraud, and during this investigation, one of their former blanks came forward and said that they had killed a woman named Linda. In order to save herself from a life sentence, Donna turned on her husband. Donna told the police that her husband Arthur was responsible for the deaths of numerous women. She said that Arthur would kill people that refused to work the street for him, and that back in July of 1982, the same year that Princess Doe was found, Donna says that Arthur had brought home a young girl who was about 16 to 18 years old, came home with her, and then after a while they both left. But when Arthur came back, he was alone. Girl was now gone, and he had cleaned out his car, and he had also washed the clothing that he was wearing. A few weeks after this incident, Arthur and Donna were having a fight when all of a sudden Arthur admitted to her that he was the one who killed Princess Doe. Police hear this confession and they want to make sure that this is actually accurate, so they interrogate both Arthur and Donna. Neither one of them can remember this young girl's name, they can't remember where they picked her up, they can't remember where she's from, nothing. Detectives said that they had no physical evidence to confirm this confession, and they also had no idea who Princess Doe truly was, so there really was no way to confirm that what Arthur and Donna said was true. After this, Arthur was sent to prison to serve a 20 years to life sentence for the murder of Linda, and that was it. There was nothing else that police could do about his confession to murdering Princess Doe. And like I mentioned in the previous video, in 2005, he wrote a letter to the New Jersey State Police asking if he could confess again to the murder of Princess Doe. But again, there really was no evidence to prove that what Arthur was saying was true, so police didn't do anything about it. And for years, there really was no movement in the case of Princess Doe until this year in July of 2022. This is when the New Jersey State Police and the prosecutor's office held a press conference announcing that 40 years later, finally knew the identity of Princess Doe, and they also knew who killed her. Back in 2007, the Warren County Prosecutor's Office submitted one of Princess Doe's femur bone and one of her humerus bones. With the use of DNA technology and genetic genealogy, they were able to get a DNA profile. And this profile led them to 17-year-old Dawn Alonic. Police met with her family, and her brother confirmed that back in 1982, Dawn had been asked to leave the home by their mother and was never seen again. So Dawn Alonic was born on August 5th, 1964, and was from the West Babylon and Bohemia areas of Long Island. Dawn had lived there her entire life with her parents and her two siblings, a brother and a sister. However, at one point her parents had divorced, and in 1982 her mother asked Dawn to leave the house. Police believe that after Dawn was kicked out of her house, she was trying to figure out where to go next. Police believe that Arthur tried to lure Dawn into working for him in the street, but when she refused, he decided to kill her and leave her body at the Cedar Ridge Cemetery. It really breaks my heart that this young girl was all on her own, just trying to figure out what to do next, where to go. Unfortunately, she ran into this evil person that took her life all because she said no. Lieutenant Cran says that he is so happy that after 40 years, Dawn Alonic finally has her identity back. Police are still trying to put the pieces together, so if you know anything about what happened to Dawn Alonic, please call the numbers on the screen.